break up, it'll be with me stapled to your arm.
It certainly was an exciting year for theater here at Desireé Performs. And although we had to close our season prematurely due to coronavirus, it will be remembered as one of the most rewarding and talked about seasons in our 12-year history. Hi, I'm Michael Shaw, the Artistic Director of Desireé Performs. While our doors remain closed, we would like to take this virtual opportunity and share with you some of the talent responsible for making Hand to God, Daniel's Husband, and Sweat so incredibly special this season. This online program, Creating for the Stage, is a series of discussions with those creative people who make theater happen here on this stage. In the third of 4 episodes, today's discussion features the DTL-nominated cast and director of the Pulitzer Prize-winning drama Sweat, which Jack Lyons writes, quote, is an absorbing and profound production. Sponsors for this episode include the Monkey Tree Hotel, Ann Sheffer and Bill Scheffler, and Daniel and Carolyn Caldwell. Thank you again for joining us for this limited series. And now, please welcome David Perry.
Hello, I'm David Perry, and welcome to Creating for the Stage, discussions with the people who make shows happen. In this case, the shows of the critically acclaimed, award-winning Desireé Performs of Palm Springs. Today, we're speaking with the director and 2 cast members from the production of Sweat, which ran February 28th through March 8, 2020. Please, I'd like to welcome now the director, Michael Shaw, and cast members Desireé Clarke and Cortez Johnson. Welcome, all of you. So, Michael, in the 2.5 years working with you, I never thought that we would share such an emotional closing night that in retrospect became even more emotional. Talk to me a little bit about what that final night was like, and then after COVID changed your season, what that last night meant to you.
Well, thank you, David. I do remember that night very, very well. I remember seeing you as you came into the house, and I know that you had just climbed off of a plane from Europe, and I thought, I want to hug you. I want to give you a big hug, and I don't know what's going on in the world, so I can't do that, you know. But you were right. The end of the play is incredibly gripping. It's incredibly emotional. You could hear a feather drop in the house because everybody is hanging on that last moment as the cast is experiencing what happens at the end of the play without giving anything away.
Thank you.
It was saying goodbye to an amazing experience. It was saying goodbye to a cast that I fell in love with from like day one, and saying goodbye to a piece of work that was just so incredibly fulfilling, heart-wrenching, lovely, and I mean, it was amazing storytelling. And to have a cast of 9, which is a huge, huge deal for us on our stage, it was saying goodbye to a best friend. And that's, you know, and then looking forward going, what was around the corner? Because we were starting to hear things were happening and unfolding in the world and the pandemic. And we're like, what is this? And how is it going to impact us? And then, of course, 5 days later, the world shut down. The country shut down on March 13th, I think it was, or 19th. We were in the first week of rehearsal for our last show, Every Brilliant Thing. So that never got really off the ground. And we literally slipped right by with Sweat. I mean, if we had extended it a week, we would have not been able to do that. It would have been devastating for us financially and also just hellaciously in terms of the set would have been up and we wouldn't have been able to take down the set. And I mean, we really dodged a bullet with that show. But at the same time, there were theaters across the valley and obviously across the nation that were in the middle of productions. There were 3 theaters that were opening that following week that could not open. And that was devastating for the community and for those theater companies. One theater company, here it is in October, one theater company's set is still standing in an empty theater, not being able to do anything. So there was a lot of emotion, going into and going out of that night of closing night for Sweat. Number one being that, I had to say goodbye to a lot of wonderful people who had to go back to Los Angeles, Cortez, and, the whole gang. But it was one of the most fulfilling theatrical experiences, I got to tell you, I've ever had.
Yes, Michael, it was an incredibly emotional show for everyone who saw it, and certainly for me. And it does seem like this entire year of 2020 is what happened to our performing arts community. Desireé, first of all, congratulations. And I know you got it there. So can we see it?
You certainly can.
Oh, yeah, baby. Come on.
There it is.
Congratulations on your Desert Star Award.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well deserved. I've seen you in many things, but nothing gripped me, and I think gripped the audience like your performance in Sweat. What was it like working on that production? And especially now, with everything we've gone through in COVID and the year of quote unquote Black Lives Matter, have you gone back and thought about that role and how you put it in the context of your life?
I would say that the experience of working on Sweat was a really difficult one for me. Any time that you're doing a show in a community kind of way and working a full-time job, it presents certain challenges to you in managing your time and trying to figure out how you can best balance your work and your artistic life. So that was a huge challenge for me with Sweat, especially taking on a character like Cynthia, who requires time, who requires energy to be put towards her. Since COVID, I actually lost my job. And so thinking back to kind of the play and it being the last show that I did and losing my job a short few weeks afterwards, it all kind of tied together for me because of the premise of the play. It all just kind of came back. And it's a little bit heartbreaking. I'm not going to lie, because when something like this happens as an artist, all you want to do is throw yourself into your art. You just say, you know what, I've lost my job. I guess I'm a full-time artist now, but we didn't have any way to go about doing that, to expressing, the things that we were feeling. And our medium had been taken away from us. And I think that definitely relates back to what this play was about, which is, people feeling their self-worth, their value, being invested in their jobs, and those jobs being taken away from them. So I definitely felt a connection in that regard.
Cortez, for you, how has the experience of 2020 changed or enhanced or not changed your view of the character of Chris?
It definitely brought out Chris's struggle. I think throughout the entirety of the play, he always comes back to his struggle. We see him laugh, we see him have a great time, but he's struggling with something. And it's been a struggle not to create, not to be on stage, not to be able to let it out, So I think that's been something that's come to life for me. And as artists, we're pressing on, but we're hurting. We need that space to create, to emote, to give. Art is a very giving experience. So, and then we got conversations about our unions right now. Prop 22 is going on. What it means to vote for a union versus vote it down. So I think all of that is relevant right now, and it puts Chris on his head.
Michael, you've had a long and distinguished career in the theater, in the director's chair, in one of your plays this past season, in a wheelchair. What was the path that led you, Michael, to become an actor, director, and how long a path has it been?
The path has been about almost 40 years. And I was actually a musician for many, many years. I started playing the clarinet when I was 6. So I was very musical all through my early years into high school. And then my best friend took drama our senior year in high school. And I thought, well, I want to hang out with my best friend. I'll take, whatever. So I did, I think Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in high school. I'm like, this is odd. It's such a strange play to be doing in a high school. But, I was with my best friend and we got to act side by side and it was a lot of fun. But then going off into college, my intention was actually to become a math teacher. I was really good with math and I was going to be a math teacher, blah, blah, blah. And then again, my best friend took an acting class. And I thought, well, I'll do an acting class with him. We just did drama together. Anyway, long story short, I got into the BFA program in acting at Florida State and fell in love with it truly as a passion. Pursued 4 years of incredible, intense training from vocal to movement to, acting, obviously. And then went on to my graduate work and getting my equity card when I was 22 and moved to Miami full time and got my SAG card in a film. And my life just started rolling into this world of, making a living as an actor. And it brought me out to Hollywood about 34 years ago. And pursued theater and film and television in Hollywood, and then did everything in between from waiting on tables to cleaning toilets to doing whatever you do, to make it. And, but I did start a theater company. I started a theater company with 3 friends back in the late 80s. And so that kind of gave me this footing into how to manage an entity, an organization. And of course, we had no idea what we were doing. We were like in our mid to late 20s and we're just like, hey, let's put on a show. We got a building. And so we did all that. And then in the late 90s, I really got involved in various theater companies in Hollywood and was invited to direct a few things and was coming out to the desert quite a bit with Clarke, my husband, on the weekends to just get away from the city. And eventually what happened was I started a theater company out here after having worked with so many groups back in Los Angeles and realized that I could actually produce the work I wanted. Because as an actor, you're at the beck and call basically of, whatever's available and casting people and all that. So I thought, you know what? If I want to work, you have to create your own work. And what better way to do that than to have your own theater company? So Daniela Ryan, who was my co-founder, she and I started the theater company in Palm Springs, and we formed Desireé Performs, and I was producing everything at that point. I would bring in guest directors, but it's really then that I really got into directing. I had directed a few things in LA, but I didn't find the passion behind it until I really had my own company and could pick the work that I wanted to do. Because when you read a script, you're like, oh my God, I totally have to do this. Which is what happened with Sweat. I mean, you read it and you're like, these words have to be seen. These words have to be seen by as many people in this town as possible. So, and I love it. I mean, I still get to perform, but I got to tell you, I love directing. I love it because I love actors. And we all speak the same language. And there's something nice. I remember thinking, what is it about the director I'm working with right now? Because I worked with so many directors in LA. What is it about them that makes this so much fun? And 9 times out of 10, it was because they were an actor too.
Yeah. So you know what actors need when you are directing them.
Definitely.
Desireé, how did you come to become an actress? And what would you tell your younger self or a younger actress about how to avoid any pitfalls that you came across starting your theater career?
I think as actors, a lot of us, myself included, can look back at our lives and say, I knew from the time I was, 3 or 4 years old and demanding that my mother held a big flashlight at my face while I performed a TV commercial for her. I think that those moments are some that a lot of us have where we recognize that from a very young age, this was what we wanted to do. For me, when I got into middle school, I was in about 6th grade. I've kind of earmarked it as the year that I knew I wanted to pursue this at a higher levels when I first was introduced to Shakespeare. And I was 11 years old and I decided to compete. And ever since then, it's been, this life of the actor. So I think if I could talk to a younger me, I would say to just go for it. I think there is a lot of self-doubt that we all experience as actors, whether it's not winning the competition that you've gone out for, not winning the award, not getting the part. I would say that failure is just as important in this industry as success is. And so you have to take those failures and chalk them up to just lessons learned, and to just push forward. I know that I had opportunities that when I was younger, that I didn't follow through on, because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe that I was capable of doing those things. So I would tell a younger me to just go for it and let the cards fall where they may, because I've ended up here anyway. So.
And Cortez, watching you in that play was quite amazing, because the range of emotions, but also the range of actions that Chris goes through. One moment you're just giddy about a new pair of sneakers, and the next you're involved in, without giving away the plot, an act of violence that, as an audience member, is hard to watch. And I know from my own acting training, to do that sort of violence on stage is also hard on the actor. How did you prepare for the role of Chris, and what was the hardest part about that role?
I'm going to say the repetition and, constantly doing it. Well, I have to go into giving a little bit of our preparation. We practice. We ran it at 10% speed first, 20% speed first, and then up to 100%. And the repetition was really hard on the body. But I grew up as an athlete, so, I got through it. In fact, my father was an All-American basketball player, which is a pretty good basketball player. So I assumed that I was going to go straight to the NBA after high school. But unfortunately, I got this short complex. So, I decided to do something completely different than most, to be quite frank, most African Americans in my community, was to go out for the drama club. Nobody was doing it. So I got cut from the varsity basketball team, and I was like, I'm just going to go pursue something different. And I played a chef in Don't Drink the Water. And long story short, just the adrenaline I got on that stage was better than any sport I had ever played. So I stuck with it. And I think that agility, that adrenaline, all of that helped me get through, those vicious acts on stage.
I'm going to stick with you for just one second. With a dad who was, quite an athlete, what has it been like for you this year watching the NBA? Because in a very real sense, the NBA is probably the only theater we're able to watch this year.
Right. It hits home, and if you want to get a message out, it's like comedy. You shove the truth down people's throat while they're laughing, and everybody's got nothing to do, and they're watching that stage. They're watching that one piece of theater that we have, the NBA, and it's done a great job of highlighting the political issues. The Lakers won a championship this year, woo woo, and on the back of the team's jerseys were political statements, and they just grasp everyone's attention. And I think that type of leadership is needed, and very, very much appreciated.
Michael, it's interesting. I think of all the plays that I've seen Desireé Performs done, certainly the first 2 seasons that I've worked with you, to me, Sweat was the most timely. It just seemed to come at a moment that now in retrospect seems almost prophetic. What was the biggest challenge about directing Sweat? And if you had to direct it now, in post-COVID, post-Trump, post-Black Lives Matter America, how would you have changed your direction, or would you change your direction?
That's a great question, David, and it's very thought-provoking. I don't know that I would change anything about the direction, because number one, I would never change anything about the casting, and everything, it's a collaborative effort, and we all worked so well together. And yes, the world is different now, but at the same time, the world is very much the same. We have the same struggles. Black Lives Matter is not a new phenomenon. It is the same fight. Same thing. Whether it's 2008, whether it's 1968, whether it's 1937, it's 2020. We should be so much further along. And that breaks my heart. But to your point, it was very timely, because what it did do is it reminded us. It wasn't new. It reminded us, the audience, the cast, all of us, of how much more work we have to do. That's what it does. It reminds you of where we need to be, where we are headed, and we are not there yet.
Are they going to be laying people off?
Whoa, come again?
Answer me.
Where'd you hear that bullshit?
Oh, a little bird. Are they?
The challenge, I was hoping you would ask me a question about the challenge of directing it. And I was going to make a joke, because the hardest thing about the play and directing it was trying to get the beer tap to work on set. It was like, we have this beer tap that I'm like, if the beer tap doesn't work, the play will flop. The beer tap has to work. So I have my friend Duke to thank for that. But one of the things that, going into it, I was a nervous wreck going into the play, because I had picked it for its challenge in terms of its content, the physicality of it, the fact that I was bringing 9 people onto our stage, which is a huge challenge, knowing everybody knows that our theater is like 9x6, So, but I will tell you, because I told the cast this, like within the first week, blocking it just happened. The staging just happened. And I was terrified. I thought, how am I going to move 9 people on this tiny set? That's, it's out back behind the bar one night or one moment, and then it's in front of the bar, and it's, but I will tell you, when you have an amazing cast and you just trust them and they trust you, it was like an orchestra. It was like this beautiful piece of music that just kind of unfolded, and every night was a joy to work with everybody. 2 of the actors have no staging per se in the play. It's the bartender and the barback, Mike and Miguel. And Miguel has very few words until he has more words, but the whole first half of it, he's just walking around cleaning. And you're like, I could micromanage this and say, yeah, I want you to move here. I want you to move here. And I just told Miguel, I said, Miguel, these are the 3 things you have to do. You gotta pick gum out from underneath this table. You have to clean this. You have to mop this. And you have to sweep that. Figure out when to do it. And when you have someone as intuitive and as open as someone like Miguel, as the actor was, he just did it. And it was organic. And you just watched him. He never said anything. And you just watch what he was doing. And then you go back to the attention of the other characters. And it was just this fabulous choreographed piece that just seemed to happen organically. The fight scene was obviously the biggest challenge staging wise. And that, again, was a very collaborative effort. And we obviously had to be very, very careful, because we didn't want anybody to get hurt. But it is, even in rehearsals, it was hard to watch. the audience was like, and you could see them and they're like, oh my God. And the trust that everyone had in each other, that's the only way it can work, is you have to trust who you're on stage with. And I trusted everybody, and everybody trusted each other. And that was glorious and just wonderful to see.
Desireé, I know what my answer would be to this question because I watched you in rehearsal and I saw it in performance. I know what I would say my favorite scene you were in was, but I'd like to know what was your favorite scene and why.
My favorite scene is definitely that I was in, I should say, was definitely what's actually my last scene in the play, where Teresa's character and Melanie's character are asking me to join them. And I have to tell them, no, I can't. And I explain why.
Walk out with us.
Walk with us.
I can't.
Come on.
I've stood on that line since I was 19. I've taken orders from idiots who were dangerous or even worse, racist. But I stood in line, patiently waiting for a break. So if I walk away, I'm not just walking away from a job. I'm walking away from all those years I spent waiting for one damn opportunity.
And that's my favorite scene because I think in every play, each character has a moment where they build up to say what they've been thinking the whole time. And that was Cynthia's moment. It's like she's been quiet this whole time, hasn't said anything about this whole time. And so at that moment, you finally get to release. And I think those are the moments that we wait for as actors. And I think that's what your audience waits for. And you really have to earn it. You have to build up to get there and really earn that moment. So that was my favorite scene in the play.
Got it. Well, mine would have been different. I thought the one where you told off your husband. I loved that. I loved watching you go for that. I was like, boy, put him in his place. He's walking a little bit shorter, I think, if you know what I mean.
I do. That was a really fun scene to do. Definitely.
Cortez, I enjoyed watching you too. It's interesting you talk about your background as an athlete because I could tell just by the way you walk. And I remember watching that and thinking he's had athletic training, but also it made me wonder, seeing the way you speak, if you had had Shakespearean or classic training, because I can see you in some of the plays with really intricate language. Talk to me about the training you've had and how it's prepared you for that particular role.
Thank you very much. That's a huge compliment. Thank you again. I unfortunately have not had any Shakespeare experience. I've always been extremely intimidated by it. I grew up on the south side of Chicago where we talk like people that are on Lynn Nottage's stage. So it came natural to me. So I give all the credit to the writing and directing. It just came naturally out of me.
I'm sorry. Fuck you. You haven't even got a college. You're already an asshole. No offense, but I'm sick of fucking jacking. Fall. The machines are so fucking loud, I can't even hear myself think, and it's getting harder and harder for me to pull myself up and go to work every day.
As I said before, my first play was in high school after being cut from the varsity basketball team. And then I went into college as an undecided major, as most freshmen do. And one day I was roaming around campus and I see a bunch of nervous people walking around the communications department, dressed up in dress suits and dresses. And I said, yo, what are you guys doing here? And they told me to have an audition. And that's how I wandered literally into the theater department. And from there, my first play was in college, was Raisin in the Sun. I played Joseph Assegai. And I think my training came from the bumps and bruises that I developed from watching experienced, seasoned actors and even new actors. You know, you learn things from new people. And I was one of the newbies. And I just really branched on to people that had been doing it for years. One actress that stands out, her name's Audrey Morgan. She played Mama in Raisin in the Sun. And I got on stage and I will admit I wasn't doing my homework. I wasn't studying. I wasn't in the lines at night. You know, I thought that it would come naturally to me. And she weighed in on me. She pulled me to the side. You know, she had a few curse words for me. She said, look, man, you can't just get on stage and just start saying things. You know, these words aren't islands. They're connected to people and things. And, you know, you have to look up the time period. And figure out what they were wearing, how they were talking, how they were walking. And from that point on, it made me take my work seriously. And that's what I did with Chris. How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he sit? What does he think? What does he feel?
You ain't noticed the shit that's been going on lately? What are you talking about?
Nothing, forget it.
Look, don't do that. Come on. What?
Like last week, remember they had a couple of white hats walking the floor?
Yeah, so? Dude, maybe they're just upgrading the equipment.
Well, they got buttons now. Boop. Buttons that can replace all of us. Boop, boop.
So that's been my training, my colleagues.
In our last few minutes, I'm going to do what I did with the last interview and do kind of a rapid fire. Michael, I'll give you 3 words since there's 3 of you. If you had to describe the experience of directing Sweat in 3 words, what would it be?
A joy, powerful, and heart-wrenching.
Desireé, for you, your 3 words are, what 3 words would you to describe the experience of acting in Sweat?
My 3 words would be tough, fun, and I'm actually going to say relaxing, because when you let it all go, it goes.
Yeah, there is no therapy like theater. I really, really believe that. And Cortez, for you, your 3 words are 3 words to describe not you or the experience, 3 words to describe the character of Chris as you portrayed him.
Regretful, prayerful, optimistic.
Last question, Michael. Whenever this moment in time called COVID is over, what is the first show you're going to see or would want to see, and what would be the first show you would want to direct?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask that. That's a hard question to answer. The first thing I want to do when this is over is get everybody together involved with our company and have a big party. I want to have a big friggin' party. That's what I want to do. Regarding professional work, oh gosh. I want to direct my first musical. I swore I'd never do one, but I'm ready because I love them. I think I want to go to New York. I want to go to New York and see a show. I want to see a show so badly. Seeing what happened to New York, especially in big cities, Chicago, even LA. I had tickets to go see Hamilton for the 3rd time. And I couldn't go because of COVID. I want to see a big show in a big theater. God, directing. Oh, I got to tell you, I've been really blessed. This is a pretty amazing experience. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a long time before I top an experience like Sweat. I got to be honest with you.
Desireé, for you, what is the first thing you're going to do when we hear that COVID is over? And I want to ask you, what do you think that means, COVID being over for the theater community? What would being over mean for you as an actress?
Well, the first thing I want to do when COVID is done is just embrace everyone. I'll go to Michael's party. I will be there. I will hug and kiss everyone on their faces. That's the first thing I want to do, is to be able to touch people again, to get tactile with people. And COVID being quote unquote over, I don't think it's ever going to be over for the theater community. In a sense, what it would look like, in my opinion, is shows being able to be done indoors again. Which we all are desperate for. But I don't think it's ever going to be, I don't think we're ever going to look at this health and safety of actors the same way that we used to. There's definitely going to be certain things that are going to last, that are going to become part of the theater community and the way that we go about doing shows for the foreseeable future, in my opinion.
So Cortez, part of that same question for you. What are you going to do when all this is over? But I'd like to give you the last word and talk to me about what it's been like as an actor during this period, and what lessons are you going to take out of this period into your next performance?
I think this has all taught us how to improvise, and that's a big part of acting. So I'll definitely take that on the stage with me. I long for the opportunity to commune again, to hear 30 people, 35, 40, 100 plus people all in a room laughing, crying at something that you did on stage. That's what I'm looking forward to. And yes, I'll come to Michael's party and I will be hugging and kissing everybody straight on their face as well.
Great. I'm sure that everyone who is watching this feels the same way. Michael Shaw, director, cast members Desireé, Clarke, and Cortez Johnson from the 2019 season for Desireé Performs. Truly a memorable and historic production. Thank you for speaking with us. You've been listening to Creating for the Stage, discussions with the people who make shows happen, specifically the award-winning shows of Desireé Performs of Palm Springs. Please tune in for our next segment, and thank you for watching. I'm David Perry.